Oh, hey there, awesome person. This is Leon Sandoval, and this episode number 1, is just to give you an orientation. I want to give you a little bit of maybe insight as to what this podcast is going to be about. So, cut right to it. This is supposed to be a podcast for photographers just like you. It's a place for photographers to share their experiences. Let me tell you a little story. Most of my life, when I was, let's say, 8 to 10, and then, the teen years, and then the college years, all of those different stages of life, I looked at people who owned businesses, and I just assumed that they had it all figured out. I just kind of figured that you were some other level of human to run your own business or have your own business. And I kind of looked at executives the same way. People who were CEOs and high-level people in an organization. I just kind of figured that they had it all figured out. Then I went to college. And in college, I was studying business communication. And, we did a lot of marketing studies, business profile studies. We're studying communication, and all of that was based around business and how it worked and how it functioned in business. And even those years were still filled with these thoughts that, gosh, if you own your own business, you must really just have it figured out. In fact, I even remember there was a former student who came to speak at a marketing class. And it's funny now, I just turned 40 this year, and I'm looking back thinking when I was in college, this guy was probably, 25 or 27 maybe? Just a kid still. But he had landed that kind of idyllic marketing job with a big corporation and was doing big things. And so he came to speak to our marketing class about his experience in the world. And even then, I remember thinking, man, this guy's got it all figured out. Well, let's fast forward a while later, when I had been in business for myself for probably 10 years at that point. I realized that all of business is just one giant experiment. And you know what that was? That was actually very freeing to me. I felt an incredible sense of freedom once I discovered that and embraced that all of business is really just an experiment. Even the guys running Nike or even the guys running Apple, the more I read business profile books, the more I realized that guys like Richard Branson were really just winging it in the early days. And so that gave me a lot of freedom in my business to start winging it and start trying things and turning knobs and dials. So that's part of why I wanted to do this podcast, because I wanted to share that vibe with everybody as well. I think that too many photographers that I talk to put such a high expectation on themselves that they end up paralyzing themselves because that high level of expectation can't really be met, at least in this moment. And so anyway, I was hoping to create a podcast where photographers can talk about their experiences. And it seems like when I listen to other people in business talk about their experience, it inspires me. So I'm hoping that will do the same for you. The other part of this podcast is really an exercise for me. This is a personal exercise, and that exercise is to kill the perfectionist. Now, maybe I don't want to kill the perfectionist, but maybe I want that perfectionist to take a little less priority in my thinking, in my mental health. Here's the deal. I have listened to podcasts for many, many years and listened to talk radio for many, many years. And I have thought to myself millions of times, I need to have my own podcast. I need to start my own podcast. And the perfectionist has always stopped me. Those thoughts of, I don't have the right gear. I don't know what content I could provide. Nothing I have is new for the world. It'd just be all the same stuff. It wouldn't be anything special. I don't know how to submit it to iTunes. I don't know how to market it. All of these thoughts in my head would stop me and prevent me from creating the podcast that I wanted to create. So, having said that, this is partly for you, but it's also partly for me. This is an exercise in being able to create things and put them out into the world. In fact, this talk right now that I'm giving to you, I have some basic bullet points written out, but I'm totally winging it right now. And I've committed to myself that if I mess up in this talk, I'm not going to stop and re-record, and I'm not going to overscript this thing. I just want to get it out there. So really the goal of this podcast is to provide a place where photographers can share their experiences in business and in photography and in creating things. And I hope that people will engage in this conversation as well. I look at photographers and I realize that so many of them work from home or from a small office, and they don't really have a water cooler, a place to kind of gather around and chat with their pals, with their coworkers. They don't really have coworkers. Now I know that we can do that on Facebook and we can do that on Instagram and we can, do our, online thing. And that's great. And that kind of is the current water cooler of the day. But, my whole thing is that we are stronger together. So I hope that by bringing people onto the show who can share their experiences, whether they've been in the business for 5 years, 10 years, or 5 months, that we can all learn from these experiences. What else is there to say? Anyway, I do hope that this is a place that's kind of like a water cooler. I hope that, we can have some fun discussions. But I hope that it's much, much more. I hope that it empowers people. I hope that it pushes people to the next level. I hope it inspires people to try things and just do things and see if it works in their business. So I'm asking you, just stick with me. I'll make mistakes along the way, but I'm giving myself permission to do so. And if you have a topic that you'd like to discuss on the show, please send me an email. It's just simply leon@photographerslikeyou.com. Listen, people, I'm ready to just jump into this and see what happens. Thank you for going along with me. I appreciate it. And do be in touch. Don't be shy, okay? All right, we'll talk soon.